Well, right on, right on. Hey, welcome everybody, and I just want to welcome you to this program. My name is Gene Tagaban. This is We're working with the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault on male engagement to get men involved to stop the violence and the abuse, the hurt and harm against women, LGBTQ. Relatives out there and to get engaged. We need men engaged to make Alaska a healthy place and a safe place for all people. And so this is just one of the solutions, one response to that. And especially during this time when we're all closed and things are locked down and stress levels, we're seeing so many things out there. We just want to just to come to you and share with you a few teachings, learnings, solutions, stories, experiences that from our own perspective, just to be part of the solution. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So at this time, I just want to have my brother Johan. You could just open us up in a good way with a song or a prayer or whatever comes to your heart, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for your words, Gene. And I just want to say I'm very honored to be here. I want to start us off with a song in the Semalic language, in the Tsimshian language, Nahaigam Shlag Yigitum, in my traditional language, that is spirit of our ancestors. And I want to sing the song to welcome our ancestors into this space and to give us the strength and to help guide us and to give us the right words. So the words that you'll be hearing is Nahaigam Shlag Yigitum. Oh, hey, hey, yo, ho, I, hey, hey, yay, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, yo, ho, I, hey, hey, yay, hey, oh, hey. Nahaigam Flaggy get 'em, way yo ho, slow them turn, hoo, oh, hey, hey, hey yo ho, I hey, hey, yay, hey, oh, hey.
Oh, Ganesh. Thank you for that. And so my name is Gene Tagaban. My Shinket name is Gayal. I'm of the Dukdane clan, Raven Freshwater Sockeye clan from Huna, the child of a Wishkatan, Eagle Shark clan from Ajuan in Juneau. I'm Cherokee, Tlinket, and Filipino. And I tell people I'm a Cherokee Tlinkapino. And I like to eat my salmon with rice and cornbread. But that's a little bit of who I am, and you'll hear more about who I am. So let's go around. Let me have everyone introduce themselves. Hey, Doug, introduce yourself, brother.
Thank you so much. I'm just so honored to be on here with you guys, and thanks for everyone who could be watching or listening. We honor you too. My name is Doug Kester. My ancestry comes out of Germany and the Netherlands, and I've been really diving deep into my ancestry, and they were subsistence people too up until the 1800s, and a warrior people. And I've spent a lot of time in Homer. I've homesteaded there. I've lived all over. Lived in Africa for a couple years, and have an African family. And that's kind of part of my spirit journey is that as well. Now I'm here on these beautiful lands. The Aquan and the Takuquan peoples have been caretaking for so many years. And I love being here, and I'm surrounded right now. There's ravens and mountains right outside my window. And I honor all those spirits of this land and all the spirits of Alaska.
Ah, ah, for the cheese.
Excellent.
Johan.
Johan Duwayu Lakibu Deptegu, Metlakatla, Alaska, Diwa Watku, Tutkit Kahaki, Pawnee Nation. Hello, my name is Johan Atkinson. I am of the Wolf Clan of the Tsimshian Nation here in Metlakatla, Alaska. And I am a youth counselor here in the village of Metlakatla. You know, and I just want to thank you all for being here in this space and speaking on speaking and sharing the teachings on this compass. You know, it's a very, very important subject that, you know, I'm very grateful to be a part of, you know. So, and Doix and to both of you all for being here, you know. So I just wanted to share a little bit who I am, you know, and you know, my life is devoted to bringing back that balance that is much needed in our world, you know. Trying to be doing my best to be a good ancestor, because it's what our grandparents and everybody before them would have wanted.
Right on, brother. Right on. And thank you so much. And as you heard Johan mention too, we're going to be going over this curriculum. It's called Compass, Guide for Men. And this was developed several years ago, probably about 5 years ago now. And how this was developed was there was a call out by men communities, organizations, that they needed something for men, just for men to start the conversation, for mentors, for teachers, men who are out there who are doing the work in their own communities. And so what happened is the network, Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and a few other organizations that were involved with the domestic violence prevention work came together and brought individuals who are doing the work, not only individuals who are doing the work, but they were also brought together some elders, natural helpers, traditional people, people of the culture and other tribes together for these brainstorming sessions and to put together this guide that we have here. And all this is just a guide to start the conversation. And so we're going to be using this booklet here. And you can get these booklets through the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. And you can also go on the site, Alaska Men Choose Respect. And they have many resources on there. And so that's what we have here. And the book that it goes through it, and it has a little introduction to it, creating a safe and respectful space wherever you're at, even online, not only where you're at in person or in a classroom or wherever you may be at, but even if we're doing things online, how can we even create a safe space online? And that's a really important part of that. And that's that being respectful. And because what this is, it's all about healing. In order for men to get engaged in the work, we need to heal. So many times women have been holding this space, been making the call out. We need men. Where are men in this work? The healing work, the prevention work. Where are they? And I have to hand it to our women. They've been like holding up this movement for a long time. And now it's time for men to step up and be present to it. And that's about taking a real look at ourselves too, eh? A deep look about who we are as men, who we are as allies to our women, who we are as a human being, who we are as a husband or uncle or grandparent, and what's our part in this world, and so that's what we're going to take a look at. And this is just one way to take a look at it. So we have, in this book, we have 6, let me see here, several topics in it. And we're just going to, each week, we're going to go through one of the topics. And the topics are knowing who you are, knowing your emotions, respect for self, respect for others, communication, conflict resolution, and becoming man. So today, we are going to go over the first chapter, the first topic, and it is knowing who you are. Knowing who you are. And so with that, Johan, there's each chapter has a story associated with it. So I'm going to have Johan, why don't you share with us the story that's in the guide?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I really like about these books, these stories, how they could really relate to our lives. Like a lot of young men, at 13 years old, Jordan wasn't sure of who he was. His journey of self-discovery started when he applied for an apprenticeship to create his own button robe, a traditional piece of Tlingit regalia. To earn his apprenticeship, Jordan wrote a paper describing why he wanted to create a robe and why he should be selected for the opportunity. After being selected, he spent time talking to elders about his clan and history. They encouraged him to create his own design for his robe. With the help of his teacher, he created a wolf design for his family, to use for generations to come. Jordan was given a jar of antique mother-of-pearl buttons that had been saved for years by a family friend to incorporate into his robe. As his robe progressed, new and old materials came together to create something that was unique, just like Jordan. After months of working with the master, Jordan walked away from the experience with both his robe and a newfound sense of who he was. Through the process of creating a traditional garment, he learned more about his culture, family, and himself. That year, he described that he wanted to become a psychologist so that he could come back to his community and help his people. Jordan was on track to get his doctorate in psychology in 2014.
Yeah.
Right on. Good little story. And again, we're going through this here booklet just to give you how to use it. Just a track on how to use this here book. And each one has a story. So thank you, Johan, and that about knowing who you are. And so there's a definition here and about what we'll learn here in this. Knowing who you are. Through this lesson, young men want to just rediscover themselves by exploring who they are, where they come from, and who they want to be. So I'm going to turn it over to Doug. Why don't you read the other part that's in there, the one that's in quotations?
Yeah, that's what's so cool about this book is there's little quotes and all sorts of little things that just kind of help keep the conversation flowing when you, when you feel stuck, because oftentimes many of us don't know what to say. So it's a great way to just kick it off. And one of the quotes here is, when youth have a secure sense of the past, the present, and the future of their culture, it's easier for them to develop and maintain a sense of connectedness to their own future. And I just, man, that word connectedness, that means so much to me. I believe the opposite of so many bad things, of addiction, of abuse, of violence, is connectedness to yourself, your culture, your family. It could just go on and on. So it's a powerful word.
Right on. And I like that too. It's like when we came into, we had introductions. And I was taught one of the most important things we can learn in our lives is learn how to introduce ourselves. because we're always introducing ourselves in so many ways other than just by saying our name. But traditionally, we would introduce ourselves not just through our name, but also we would introduce ourselves to the trees, to the land, to the water, to the rivers, everything around us. And so that sense of introduction to knowing how to introduce yourself. But before we can introduce yourself, it's about knowing, who am I? Who am I? And that's actually a lifelong endeavor. You know, and I know in my introduction, I love it because it is. It's I have a sense of connectedness of my culture and my ancestors, because it's one of those things that I tell people is that we've been dreamt into existence by those old, those greats. They've dreamt us about us, and here we are, and that's why we're doing what we're doing here, is because we are dreaming the future into existence as well, and we're just trying to create that a better future for all our relatives and our people, you know. And so I really like that, you know, the past, the present, and into the future. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Johan?
Yeah, you know, just the past, present, and future statement, you know, so powerful, you know, and to understanding on who we are, you know, and to understand on who our ancestors were and how they influence that on who we are, you know, because the strength that our ancestors have had, you know, the strong identities that our ancestors have absolutely play a huge role in who we are, whether we're that person right now or whether we're on the journey to find it. You know, having an understanding of our past is, you know, very, very powerful and plays a huge influence on the decisions that we make in our future. You know, one of the reasons why I share that song of our ancestors, calling our ancestors in, our ancestors of the past, is to help us, guide us, and on our future path that we take. You know, so when you were reading that, Doug, thank you for sharing that. You know, it's because it was past, present, and future. You know, having a really digging deep and understand, focusing on those words. You know, really help and understand us, understand on who we are and how that influences our lives. Yeah, this is a very this is a book. Every time I open it up, you know, it's always more self-reflection, and I really enjoy it.
You know, John, just talking about that too is it reminded me of how that about ancestors, that, you know, life can be hard enough as it is, especially by ourselves. But just to know that we're not alone. We're not alone. And to ask ancestors for that help, for that guidance, and that ancestral wisdom that's there. You know, and I know when I talk with ancestors, and it's just like when I'm next to a river, I'm recalling this time when I'm, you know, just standing there. And even those trees that are standing there, those are our ancestors. And those are our ancestors watching us. And oftentimes when I'm going through hard times, I'll be talking to that river, because that river is an ancestor. I'll talk to those trees, and like you said, if the eagle goes overhead, and I'll be asking them for strength and help. And sometimes it can just get hard, man. It just gets hard. And I've had to learn this lesson through the years, eh? So I have another question for you guys. You know, this chapter covers this, like, knowing who you are. So when did you guys just, you know, start discovering that self-discovery, like knowing who you are? Hey, Doug.
Oh man. All right, you know what? When you ask that question, it is honestly it brings up some fear inside of me and excitement at the same time. And I think because when you talk about who you are or your identity, you have all these things going on of like, what do I share? And what if I share parts of me that I don't share with anyone else? You know, what if they see parts of me of my shadow side, or what if they see parts of me that are not socially accepted right now? So it can really create a conflict inside when you ask someone like, who are you? Because it just can be a waterfall of jumbled feelings. So man, I just want to put it out there. Like for me, who I am, I feel like it's, for one thing, it's constantly changing, and I'm constantly moving, you know, through my own self-reflection and my own like mirrors of people, of my children and my family around me, and then I'm constantly rediscovering who I am. And for me, I'm on that ancestor journey right now. It's really been taking me deep. I know as like a white man, you know, from like my like privileged white culture, one thing that I don't feel privileged in is I feel cut off. Because, you know, when I was growing up, nobody said like, oh, your ancestors, you know, we talked about our grandparents and parents, but I never felt it deep. I never went down to like my DNA and my spirit and really felt and talked with my ancestors. And through that journey, and I'm still on that journey, but through that journey, I feel like not only am I healing myself, discovering myself, but I'm like healing, helping to heal my ancestors in the past too. And that was told to me by a very wise, there's some Alaskan Native people who are very wise who said, when you heal yourself, you heal your ancestors. And I've been really taking that to heart, and it really means a lot to me. And every time I think about that, like every day, because I truly want to complete the circle and have healing for all of us. Because I know even scientifically, we talk about epigenetics and DNA, and it's all part of it, you know, whether you look at it with a rational mind or whether you look at it just deep in your heart, it's all connected, and we are all connected. So that's my, for now, I could tell you who I am, but I'm more interested in to hear your guys' takes on it.
Oh, you're muted, team.
There we go. My wife came up here and she visited me. She came in and she gave me a hot chocolate. And so
Yeah.
she came stomping up the stairs here. So, hey, so John, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first, I just want to make a comment on Doug's response. You know, Doug, I find it so cool that you're looking into your heritage. You know, you're looking into your ancestors. You know, because I love that. You know, us, no matter who you are or where you come from. You know, and knowing your heritage and your ancestors. You know, as far back as you could go, man, that's a beautiful thing. So, you know, I honor you for doing that. That is awesome. You know, when I really first started giving thought about it, you know, was when I guess when I was preteen. You know, I feel very fortunate and grateful that I had a really strong mother who was always planting seeds in my mind. You know, into she would say, Johan, you know, as a Pawnee man and as a Tsimshian man, you know, you have these values that you have to learn and incorporate in your life. Now, being, you know, 11-year-old kid, I didn't really fully understand that. But those statements, they stuck with me, and I still remember them. So planting those seeds all throughout my childhood has definitely helped me as a man now. You know, reflecting back, and when we have those aha moments, like, oh, that's what my mother was talking about. That's what she meant when she was telling me to always respect myself, you know? So, you know, and then I've been having, I was very fortunate to have some great uncles in my life to also plant those seeds as well, and then that has played a huge part in my life, into me talking with the young people, me planting those seeds. Doesn't matter if they're a little infant or if they're someone my age or even older, to be able to share those words. You always have to respect yourself, and what that means, respect yourself because you are worth it. You are, and your life is sacred. And when we tell those things to young kids, they're going to be young kids, and they're going to want to, play with their friends. But planting those seeds has played a huge part in my life, and I'm just always want to, keep that balance. And now it's my turn to plant those seeds, So I guess it's been a whole lifelong journey. And honestly, I'm still discovering on who I am, and the more I talk about it, the more I have an understanding of who played an influence in my life, and the more that we're able to have these conversations, I'm still figuring out at 39 years old where I'm still having those aha moments like, oh, okay, that's what my uncle was telling me about when I was 12 years old, So it's it's a lot of self-reflection and self-discovery, and um, I thank my uncles and my mother every single day, for planting those seeds, because they knew they had a responsibility,
Yeah.
and they knew they had a responsibility to share that with me, just like how we all have responsibilities to share this with the people in our communities. And I'm not talking just your sons and daughters, your nieces and nephews, even relatives that are not related to you, even your neighborhood kids, even friends of your kids, for them to hear those things, those words of planting seeds could go a long way, So um, yeah, so I guess that kind of sums up, on my path of self discovery and who I am.
Right on. Thanks, Johan. Because I think about you know myself, like knowing who I am. And when I was a kid, I was like sports. I was an athlete. I was an athlete. I was a jock, and I got really, really good at it too. And that was my self identity, about knowing who I was, and and also I got lost in it because um, sometimes even as an athlete, I get caught up in that whole culture of sports and identity with that. And so it's so part of me, although I started dancing when I was young, very young, around 5 years old, with the culture, listening to the stories, grandmas, grandpas, but I got kind of lost there from the culture when I was really got involved with sports, because it could be like really this ego thing, whatever, and got caught up in it. So I got a little bit away from the sports, but and it wasn't until I went to Haskell Indian Junior College. I saw all these other Indians around, all our natives around. I was like, oh wow, look at all this, and 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 that's what I was like. Really took a look at myself. But I'll tell you what, when I was younger, man, in junior high, I don't know about you guys, but I thought I was something, man. I thought I was something. I thought I was so cool. I thought I was so grown up. I thought I was like I remember going back to my junior high school in Floyd Drive in Juneau, and then the lockers like so tall. But when I went back in there as an adult, the lockers were only maybe about this tall, this high. And I went walking through there, and I had to reflect back on, I had a girlfriend back then and everything, and I thought I was like just something, but I didn't know anything. I mean, heck, I'm 56, I still don't know nothing. But back then, I really didn't know anything, and I take a look at my maturity too. My maturity level was like so. I was really uh, and just it wasn't there. I wasn't mature. I really, they've even done studies that men don't really mature until maybe around 25, 26, 27, as opposed to they say 18 years old. Shoot, man, when I was 18, there was like this. I was so far from being mature. And especially like Native men, indigenous men, where, that maturity level was like, it takes later. And again, women, they mature a lot quicker, or, and they're a lot smarter than us. I will agree to that right now. Women are just smarter than us, and I have no problem admitting that. But I take a look, it wasn't until I started really growing, really, as a man, and getting to know really who I was, until maybe around 27. So, if I really reflect back on it, and I've known who I was. And then it's just I'm just constantly growing to this point now. And then I'm still, want to know, still trying to discover who the heck I am and my place in this world. And I got to hand it to you, Doug. I mean, it's like knowing your heritage, because I just had this conversation not too long ago about people saying, "Oh, I'm just white." And I go, no. You're more than just white. You have an ancestry. And they fought for you, and here you are. They dreamt about you, and here you are. So learning about that, who you are, and that you're more than just white. I'm more than just native and stuff. But the importance of knowing who you are and discovering your heritage, your ancestry, and that self-discovery. I want to ask you this question, guys. That what do you say to those who don't know their heritage? They might have been adopted, or like a lot of the indigenous people, they were taken from their homes, their tribes, and so they have no idea. I don't know where I came from. I don't know my heritage. I was adopted, and what are your guys' thoughts on that?
For me, there's two things. One is, if they were adopted, then they have two heritage paths. They have their adopted family, which can be just as meaningful and just as powerful as someone who is, a family who is like creating that culture and who they are. And then there's also their ancestors of their genetics, there's those. So it's almost like they get two, because, and if they don't know, like who their not adopted, their real, quote, real family is, then I really feel like ceremony really helps in that. And there's some really powerful ceremonies you can do on your own. Just get centered, just get calm, just get into your heart, however you do that, and you can still connect. You imagine yourself stepping into, one of your ancestors, maybe your great grandfather or whoever it might be, whatever, just put it out there. I personally believe that you can still connect to those ancestors, even though you might have disconnected from them, in the material world.
Right on. Johan, what are your thoughts on that?
I love that. That's a really great example, Doug. And just to go off what Doug was saying, it's a lot of our DNA and our ancestors, throughout my life, I've heard a lot of people say that, historical trauma gets passed down in our DNA. But not only that, but our strength of our ancestors, our ability to overcome and adapt, and everything that kept our ancestors strong also gets passed down. So if a person doesn't feel, if they were to ever make a statement, if they say, I don't feel native because I didn't grow up in an indigenous family, or I was adopted out, it's my response is, I feel it, I could see it. And how Doug gave an example on how we could do our own ceremonies, we could go out and connect with the world around us, and I think that's a huge part of it, in finding ourselves, is separating ourselves and, connecting with the land and and to really dig deep and accept, even though it's hard at times, accept that if you came from this strong indigenous people or wherever you came from, what made them strong for thousands of years is now within you, and we just have to find it. So anytime someone says to me, oh, I don't feel like I identify with this, or because I've been adopted out, my response is, I feel it, I see it, and I know you have it. Deep down have it because your ancestors had it, and the children before you are going to have it, and it sure as heck not going to stop with you. And it's just, and being able to support one another is a huge part into helping people identify, and understand on who they are. So you gave some really great examples, Doug. And you could go out and have your own ceremony by yourself. You don't need to be in that indigenous community or wherever your ancestors are from to discover on who you are, because it's already all within you. It's already there in your DNA.
I like that. I like both your. It's like uh, one of the teachings that I've been raised with is that the trees hold the remembering. That's why I like working out in the woods and nature and getting people out there. Is that the trees hold the remembering. If we want to remember, go ask the trees. Go ask the trees and be open to what comes to you, because they're grounded into the earth, into the root systems, and they communicate with each other. And in that in itself is a ceremony in itself. Taking that time to go out there, and I had a discussion earlier today too about ceremony. Ceremony is like I learned that we have ceremonies, and they're there to a way to remind us of how to be. The reminders of how to be. That's why you find so many indigenous people. There's so many ceremonies, and we've gotten away from a lot of those ceremonies. But it's a reminders of how to be, how to act, and so I really like that. I like that. Um, I want to ask you this question here too, and thanks both of you guys for being here and sharing. You know, uh, Oftentimes we have these parts of us. Here we are as men, and there's the stereotypes out there. Men are tough, we're rugged. Men don't cry. Men are the bread makers, and this and that. And those are some identities or some parts of who we are. And I grew up with that belief system too. That men don't cry. I got that from my dad, my uncles too. And but there's these other parts of who we are that we just oftentimes as men, we don't take on some other identities, as being vulnerable, whatever. It's like, and for myself too, it's like some of the identities, I can be scared. I can be scared or fearful. Uh, and there's times where I felt shame or and I have to take a look at those things as well. I mean, sure, there's that tough image of Gene Tagaban, raven dancer, storyteller, and this and that. But there's other parts of me that are just vulnerable, and I need help with, and and even as a man too, we've talked about this too, about showing grief and hurt and crying and sharing tears. And that's all part of healing as men. I was just shared several tears yesterday because we're in this here pandemic, and I want to see my family up in Alaska. I happen to be down in Tacoma, Washington right now, and gosh, and there's this part of me in my chest that just want to reach out, I want to go and stuff, but I also want to keep them safe. And so I was just torn between these here two parts of going yes and not going. And, so there's this part of me that's just like, sometimes I'm just this hurt kid, this hurt child, man, who just wants their parents and wants to see their parents. So that's just some parts of who I am as well, and just being vulnerable, being being scared, being this little kid, you know, and being a kid that's just curious and wants to learn about the world, you know. What are your thoughts on that, Johan? Anything come up for you with that?
Yeah, you know, I think that really zeroes in on knowing who you are. You know, thank you for sharing. You know that you shed tears the other day. You know, because if and I want to also say on Sunday, I did the same thing. This past Sunday, you know, I also cried. You know, and I want to let everybody know, as men, as young men, and as boys, it's okay to cry. It's okay for men to feel their feelings, you know, and it took a long time for me to accept that, you know, and for me to really know who I am, you know, because we all have these emotions, you know, every single one of us feels sad, feels happy, feels mad, you know, we all have all these emotions, you know, and for us to only want to express a couple of them of happy, you know, where we had to maintain being strong and never cry, you know, that's really not us honoring on who we are, you know, because on who I am, I wanted to cry Sunday, so I cried my eyes out, you know, and it's been over a year since I cried that hard, you know, and I'll tell you what, you know, for me being able to get past that point where I'm not ashamed of crying, it took a lot, you know, and it does take a lot because of how society is and how society is telling men and young men how to be, you know, but I'll tell you what, man, once I did that, I felt great. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was a better father. I was a better friend, you know, and being able to accept me for who I am and my emotions, you know, it helps me on my path, you know, and if anything, you know, when we talk to our young people, you know, to our men and our young men, you know, share those words, and even if we're struggling, where if we know that it's okay to be able to feel our feelings and express our emotions, you know, but just saying those words have power to them, you know. Everybody in my village here in Metlakatla has seen me break down, shed tears, and I know everybody in my community, um, there's times where I go, oh, I hope Johan doesn't start crying this time, you know, but that's just who I am, and I'm okay with that. And me being okay with that is means a lot to me, because I know, because I got my sons and I got my nephews and I got the people in the younger generation who I know as friends. They're seeing us as men being okay with that, and that helps them be okay with it, you know, being able to honor who they are and understand and accept on who they are, you know, on who they are, on no matter what they're feeling, on no matter what they go through. I think it's very healthy for us to really honor that part of ourselves.
Gonna choose Doug.
You know, and yeah, you both were talking about that. I remember so much of my youth, you know, of I started out as like a crier. I was like a little boy who would cry at the drop of a hat, and I have two little boys, and they're like that. They're super emotional little beings, and I was just like so many of us, socialized out of that, and I became a stuffer, you know. I just would be like, oh, and I'm going to stick that down in there and stuff it down, and I'm not going to let these emotions show. Hell no, I'm not going to let anyone see this. And I did it for years, man. And it's what I finally came to figure out is when you stuff that grief down and those tears down, they come out. They just come out in a different way. And for me, like it comes out in anger, you know, and whether it's anger towards myself or the world or whatever, I would see, you know, it coming out in that way, because emotion needs to flow, man. It's like water. It just needs to go. If you dam it up, it's going to come out. And oftentimes when we dam it up, it comes out in a way that that either hurts yourself or hurts others. And that's what scares me now, is that I don't want to do that anymore. And I mean, my wife makes fun of me all the time because I will start to cry, but I shut it off, you know, like I'm get a little bit and I'm like, you know, and I don't know what my deal is. It's just kind of like, come on, I need to like kick it into gear. I can't do it around other people. But I truly believe in this whole idea of vulnerability is not a weakness. It's not showing you as weak. It could almost be the opposite. It can be when you're a warrior and you like put yourself out there to like rescue, you know, one of your like comrades out there. You're making yourself vulnerable. You might have to run through something. You're making yourself vulnerable. It's not a word that says, oh, you're vulnerable. Oh my God, that just means you're weak and people are going to beat on you. No, I have a little boy who's 6, and he told me this story the other day. He said, Dad, when I feel like super happy and I'm laughing, I feel weak. Like, you know, it makes me fall down and I feel weak. But when I cry, I start to feel strong, and I feel this like strength, like welling up, and this power inside me. And I had never even thought of it that way, but now I do. I see it as like a power and a strength and a way to like access those things inside of us that are kind of locked up. So yeah, thanks guys.
Right on. Thanks, man. You know, and like, just like you said, if we hang on to that emotions and that, you know, it will come out and manifest in other ways. We can say anger, depression, alcoholism, abuse, drug abuses, or I've seen it come out in other diseases, heart disease, diabetes, or even you know, arthritis. You know, and so because anger and that emotion is really, really powerful. You know, it's a stress on the system. So to be able to express it and in a good way, without being teased, man. I would tell you what, and this is a tough one to admit, man, because, you know, I said earlier when I was in junior high and I was this jock and this and that, and even in grade school, I remember this stuff I was a bully. There were times where I was a bully against other classmates, other boys, you know, teasing them for crying, or even if they had just a little different or whatever. And part of that was too, man, is like I became that bully too at times because I'm just trying to fit in. Just trying to fit in. And I even remember looking back at there were some times too, and I see that I was actually related to some of them. Some of them. You know, it wasn't that long ago. There's a guy in Juneau, and he owns a sign for to help people back and forth along crosswalks during the tourist season. And no, I'm not going to say his name just out of respect and confidentiality, but I heard his name and I went by and drove by because he's one of the hardest workers. He can't read, he can't write, but he's a hard worker, and he helps people. He's there for people, and he loves that, working with the people. And I remember somebody telling me his name. I drove by there because I wanted to see this guy. Who is this person who can't read, they can't write, and do all these things? And I drove by and I saw who it was. It was one of my classmates when I was in grade school, who was teased all the time. I was one of them who teased him. And then suddenly he just stopped coming to school. He stopped coming to school. And I always wondered what happened to him. And I heard a little bit about his life, you know, but when I saw him, I was like going, oh, I'm so grateful that he's doing well. I was so grateful that he's still alive, because so many kids nowadays, they get bullied and they end their lives. But I remember that those times in grade school and all that, and then also those were like some times that really influenced me, because my parents always told me about be fair, be respectful, be kind to others. You know, and I had to really take a look at that. I started taking a look at that in grade school and through junior high, and even in high school, and even to where I am now. You know, and those are some influential times in my life. I had to take a look at anything that sticks out for you and that influenced you and helped you develop in knowing who you are.
Yeah, you know, the uncles in my life, you know, because our parents, you know, they play a huge influence in who we are, you know, but to have another person that is not your parent show that they care about you, I think that was really huge for me, and it's still, you know, I'm still grateful for that till this day, you know, that there was that other people were able to show that they care, that other people were able to plant those seeds of telling me this is what respecting yourself looks like. This is what respecting others, you know. And then being young, you know, like I said earlier, you know, I didn't really understand what it meant. And I, most of the time when I was a teenager, it was in one ear, right out the other, you know, and I was out acting a fool, you know, doing things that that I shouldn't have been doing, you know, but those still stuck with me, you know, and all those teachings, all those seeds were still planted in that soil, you know, within my spirit. And so I guess having that really influenced, you know, on who I am and my own self-discovery, you know. So, and even though when they were telling me, you know, being a young teenager, you know, being a young man, you know, to be honest, I really didn't give a damn at that moment. You know, I didn't, you know, and I wish I did, you know, but I didn't, you know, because I wish that I was able to honor what everything that my mother had taught me, you know, or really honor and appreciate that my uncles were taking me out to the beach, you know, were building a fire for me, you know, and you know, but we're all young, you know, and then we all go through the learning process, you know. So I think those really influenced on who I am, you know, and influence with my ability to be able to reach out to young people, you know, to the young men and women, you know, to continue to plant those seeds, because I want to do exactly what the generation before did to me, you know. I mean, that's how we've always kept these traditional values and how we've always kept each other healthy. We've always looked out for each other, you know, not just your immediate family, but everybody in your community, you know, everybody looked out for each other, you know, everybody shared words that we care for you, you know. And then even if I walk through my community right now and tell that to the young people, you know, I know that there will be many that, you know, could care less, but they will remember it, you know. But those seeds are planted in their soil, and you know, when they're an adult or when they're finding out on who they are, you know, maybe it'll mean something to them, you know. So, but yeah, my uncles and my mother, you know, had played a very huge influence in discovering who I am and in the path that I'm on right now.
Yeah, yeah. Right on.
You know, right now, I mean, I am 53, so I heard you don't even start really settling into like who you are as a man, the masculine, until you're in your 50s, like 52, 53. And I can really tell, like now, I really feel like I'm just starting to settle in. And one thing that's really helped me a lot is just the simple idea of you know, when we're growing up, we get influenced by so many people, sometimes negative influence, sometimes positive. Like you were saying, Gene, you're just trying to fit in. I did the same thing. I was bullying people. I got bullied, you know. Yeah, the whole thing. I had awesome advice, just like you had, Johan, with like great people, but I was just you know, someone who didn't really realize what it all meant. And now what I do is I really follow that part of inside me that I'm excited about. I know it just seems like a super simple thing, but it's really helping steer my boat to like find my purpose and to like find who I am. And it's not all that baggage and all that other stuff. It's like those parts of you that like make you light up, you know, that allow you to like really shine. That to me is like such a great way of finding out who you are. It's just following that. I feel like the creator made it pretty simple for us. We make it pretty complex and complicated, but it can be that easy.
Right on, right on. Thank you, thank you. Um, and all this, what we're going through here is, again, if some of you are just joining in, we're going through this year program. It's called Compass. Alaska Men Choose Respect. And this was put together by the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault on how to engage men to stop the violence, the abuse, the hurt and harm against women, our LGBTQ relatives out there, and just to make Alaska a safer, healthier environment and place. And so that's what we've been talking about. And everything we've been talking about just comes out of this guide known, again, it's called Compass, a guide for men. And basically what it is, it's just to start the conversation. And just all we've been sharing now is we've just been having a conversation here and just talking about where we are, who we are, our experiences, what we learned, and just to and how we're going to teach our young ones. So one of the things I want to read out of here is this, because what it is there's quotes, there's reflection questions, there's a story in it that Johan shared earlier. But there's one part in here I really want to share with you, and it's this part here. It's there are many positive and negative influences telling us who we should be and how we should act. These include our culture, media, family, values, spirituality, community, struggles, triumphs, and all of the individual experiences throughout our lives. Through each new experience, we are discovering and rediscovering ourselves. So we have so many influences that are coming at us from so many directions, culturally, and the media. One thing I want to say is the media, especially for our young people, that the media, these things here do not define who you are. Do not define who you are, that media. And also one thing I really want to say here too is oftentimes some of us have had really adverse, a hard life. Even if you're young right now to this point, you might be a teenager, and you might be a teenager, had a hard life. That does not define who you are. That doesn't define who you are. And as an adult too, these behaviors, it doesn't define who you are. It's about really taking a look at who do you want to be? Who are you? And discovering and knowing who you are. And really taking a look at this stuff about identity, about values, principles, and our traditional ways. And some of you didn't live with those traditions. Sometimes it's just looking within your heart, because in some places we know. I believe that we know, and our DNA knows. And before we close up here, I want to ask you guys is, as men, and learning about who you are, knowing who you are when it comes to women. What kind of man you want to be, and knowing who you are, and learning about who you are in relationships with whatever that is. And so, Doug, what are your thoughts on that?
Couple things. Number one is just I want to be respectful. I don't want to like cause harm. I don't want to make them feel less than, because we live in a society that perpetuates this idea that men are, better or more in power, because we are more in power. And we do a lot of subtle things to like keep other people's down, or keep other genders down, whether it be women or other sexual identities. We do a lot of that stuff. And I'm lucky to have grown up and now even have like powerful women in my lives. And I love that. I love like the idea of like allowing, of being there and allowing them to show their power, because they have so much to offer the world. And I just want to be myself though at the same time. We're not saying that you have to like be not who you are. And I truly believe this, because genetically and spiritually, like we all have our children and our families, and they want you to be, well, number one, happy. But like as a father and as a husband, I know like when I find my purpose and I find who I am and can really express that in the healthiest way, that's the best for them. I guarantee it's the best for my kids, when I'm expressing myself as a genuine, authentic person and not trying to be some stereotypical man of like, this is my house and my rules and damn it, you're gonna do this now, all of you. It's that way's gone. I feel like we're on a new path now, and I'm ready for it. And that path is one of equality and respect for each other.
Right on, right on, right on. Thanks, Doug. Johan.
Yeah, it's man, Doug really nailed it. It's equality and respect. I want to be able to be a good role model for my family. And one of the things that I do all the time is I talk to the woman in my life. My wife, my sister, my mother. My aunties, and for advice. Because they live in a complete different world than I am as a man. The women live in a whole different, they view the world, and they're confronted with issues all the time that myself as a man, and I'm a pretty big guy, so me being a man, a big guy, and then knowing that the woman in my life live a completely different lifestyle, so I'm always asking for their point of view and for their teachings, because I know that I have a lot to learn, and that's one thing that I will be the first thing that I want to acknowledge. I have a lot to learn, but I want to learn, I want to be able to take the advice from as many people as I can, and to be that good role model, I want to be able to help be the change, but in order for me to do that, I have to know who I am, and to do a lot of self-reflection, and this book right here, is a tremendous tool, it just this conversation that it allowed us to have, on this first chapter, and there's a part in here, talking it out. And that's exactly what we did, and I learned a lot just from being able to talk with other men, on this topic, knowing that there are other men that are learning. There are other men that aren't scared to say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, because in my mind I'm like, yeah, me too, so that makes two of us, and that creates that relationship where it helps us along our paths, so and overall it's just, I want to be able to help bring back that balance, so
Yeah.
so I want to continue to learn and seek advice where I can, to help me grow.
That's it too, brothers. It's like about how can I heal? I need to heal my hurts. I need to heal my pains, my guilts, my shames, my blames, whatever that is. And I need to be authentic and truthful and taking a look at that. Because, like I said, I grew up, especially when I was younger. And this one thing I really want to point out, is, yeah, I want to be a good partner for my wife. I want to be respectful. But the thing is, I can say I want to be respectful, but what is that? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like to be respectful, honorable? And what does healing look like for you? And one thing I do want to say is that, you say like you didn't know what the heck you're doing. It's like kids nowadays, they're learning about intimacy and sexuality by this. Pornography is a huge thing. It's a huge industry. And it's the wrong way to find out and to learn about it. And I just want to encourage other men or women, we got to talk to our young men about sex, sexuality, intimacy, what that means, or else they're going to go on here and learn about it. And so much abuse is happening because of that. Because I'll be honest with you, when I was we were almost expected to like be sexually active by junior high. What a ridiculous thing that is. Ridiculous. And even through high school, and stuff, and then we're expected to like know what to do. I had no idea what to do. Zero. But I was out there trying to fake it, and I'm like terrified and trying to find out, so part of it's my responsibility too, to like, how can I teach that? How can I be there and help our young men, my nephews, my cousins, or any other, who ask the question. Yeah, and so it's really interesting. We could continue this conversation, go on and on, with knowing who you are. And this is just, again, we're using the compass here. We're just going through questions here. Well, right on. We're back. We had a little bit of technical difficulties there, but we're going to close up here. And I just think all of you have taken the time just to listen. And again, this is a Guide for Men, Compass, put out by the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. And we'll be going through a chapter a week, just to show how to use it and other ways, and just to start the conversation on engaging men to stop the violence, the assault, and the hurt and harm, and to make Alaska a better, safer place for all people, especially our sisters and our relatives. And so we just went through this chapter, knowing who you are. We read the definitions, we went through some questions, and there's a story in here as well. And so we went through the story, and we talked, and we had a great discussion. And my brother's here, thank you so much. But there's another part on here, it's called teachable moments. And when we talk about those teachable moments, it says just to find opportunities to share your culture, experiences, and identities wherever, and encourage the youth to be proud of who they are and of their identities. And just through stories, just what we just did here, and just by just telling and sharing the stories, but being yourself, being your authentic self too. Identify other community members who could connect with the youth and invite them to come and share their identities, cultures, and experiences. So who's out there in your community who's already doing the work? Maybe they're already youth workers. Maybe they're coaches. Maybe they're fishermen. Maybe they're hunters. Maybe they're artists. Whatever, find something of interest that you could like just bring to the youth, bring to the people, and you can talk about wellness and talk about knowing who you are, and many of those ways. And so there's another part on here that says live in the lesson in the back. And in here it says live in the lesson is spending time learning about where you come from and your own identities. And so just take the time, when you become an old guy like me, you're getting to know who you are. Start at a younger age, just start questioning, who am I? Who am I? And you might even be question your identity about who you are, or your sexuality, whatever it may be. But find an ally. Find an ally. That's another thing about those teachable moments, about finding other people who are doing those, the community members who are doing the work. Find an ally who can support you, who encourage you. And those are those ones who are in our corner, got our backs. And they're in your community. You got to search them out. Support youth in understanding their own identities. Live in the lesson. Support youth to develop a positive and healthy sense of their identities through culture and through gender. Understand how you directly or indirectly feed into stereotypes. And that's really taking a look, like, especially now, it's like, how am I feeding into the stereotypes? How am I about women in general? It's like, oh, all women are this way, or all women are that way, or even in the stereotypes of racism, or prejudices, and about genders as well, and how am I feeding into that? Understand how historical trauma and unresolved grief has impacted communities. The trauma, so many people, they hold trauma, but whole communities, not just individuals, but whole families, tribes, and communities hold trauma, but and unresolved grief. But on the flip side of that, all communities hold resilience. All communities hold ancestral wisdoms and triumphs at the same time. We are not all trauma. We are not all grief. We are also resilience. We are perseverance. We are our strength. We're beauty. We are those things as well. Understand how culture and traditions provide strength in your community. Just to learn about the cultures and traditions of the community that you're in. And integrate cultural practices and leaders into your practices. So that's, again, getting allies. Who's the leaders out there in your communities? Who are your allies? So with that, this is the compass. We'll be going over once a week with a new chapter, new section. And so with that, any last words, brothers, that you'd like to share before we close up?
I just want to thank everybody for watching, and for being able to be the change. That's what we need in this world. We need to be the change, and just to add a little bit on what you said earlier, Gene, we have to find allies, but also to be that ally.
Yeah, to be that ally.
For us as people, to be the ally, to let people know that you are here for support. You are here to walk with them on their journey, and when we do things together, we work together, support one another. That's that change that we need, So yeah, I just want to thank everybody for watching. I'm very honored to be here. Brother Doug, Gene, it's always an honor to be able to share space with you all.
Right on. I just want to add on to that too, is with Johan. It's like, not only be that ally, but be an ally for yourself. Give yourself a chance. Hang in there. Be that ally for yourself. So thank you, brother.
It's so true, Gene. Be gentle with yourself. There's no reason to beat yourself up and and all that. We've all done that too much. I still do it, but just remember, you know, be kind to yourself and to each other. And tell you what, if you made it this far in the video, we owe you something big. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you all.
And this is the first one, man. We'll be doing more. We just want to get out there and create the change, and be the change we want to see in the world, you know. And so thanks for putting up with us, you know. And it's one of those things, you know. You want to do something or be something, you got to just go out there and do it. So I'm going to close this up with this song. You know, it's a sunrise song, and so just like yeah. So here we go. Hey yo, hey hey yo, 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 hey yo. Hey yo, hey yo, cha 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 cha. So with that, you know, just a little spirit in there, and so thank you so much for your presence and watching, you know. And so stay tuned. We'll be back with Alaska Men Choose Respect. Take a look at that site, a guide for men, compass, and a special shout out to the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and all you men, all you women, all your relatives out there. Thank you. Kunachish, and yeah, of course, thank you. And to Doug and Johan, Kunachish brothers. Till next time. Boy.
Okay.